a program dedicated to matters relating to women, and today is not different. And today we're looking at a very important topic, a topic that has to do with everyone, because when it comes to education, it concerns everyone in the family. Okay, now we're looking at quality education for all in Nigeria, challenges and prospects. And I have two guests to look at this. I have Tambari Dunka Kote, Chairman, Rivers Indigenous NGOs, Civil Society Network, Ringos. Tambari, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Rachel. Good afternoon, listeners.
Okay, I have somebody who cross-carpeted from Yoruba to Igbo. She is, when I saw the name, I'm like, wow. Dr. Mrs. Poluke Eze. You definitely you came from Yoruba land to marry an Igbo man, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah,
good afternoon, listeners.
Good to have you in the studio. My name is Rachel Ona. My colleague Cosby Jones, who has been presenting this program for me sometimes, is equally here. He's doing some other thing in the studio. So I welcome all of you to this program. Now, you are an educationist, Mrs. Eze.
Yes.
Dr. Mrs. Eze, beg your pardon. Now, let's look at quality education for all. Is it something attainable,
Yes.
especially in Nigeria?
Yes.
Please throw more light on it. How do you think we can attain that?
Yes, it's attainable. That's if all the avenues, all the people responsible for it put in their best, the government, the school administrators, parents.
So what role
students.
does the government, you mentioned three stakeholders right now,
Yeah.
the government, the school administrators and parents. If they all put in their best, can you tell us more about the roles the individual has to play as a parent, the role the government has to play, and the role the educational administrators have to play in this thing?
Okay. For the government, when we talk of quality education, we're talking about an education that is all encompassing, both in the content, in the environment, and also in the outcome. So when we talk of the government, we expect the government to provide all the necessary funds to enable the school, establish school buildings, train teachers, fund school, also increase the number of scholarship. Because we know that for the teachers, you don't give what you don't have. So if we really want quality education, then our teachers need to be trained. They need to be qualified. And so the government has a lot to do in funding education.
Now, teachers being qualified, most teachers have at least have a first degree, even the ones employed by the private schools. So I don't know what you mean by qualification, because in the face of unemployment, the easiest job, so to speak, for graduates to get nowadays is to get a job in a private school. Whether you read geography, education or no education, whether you read engineering, some even read electrical engineering and still have a job in private schools as teachers, teaching mathematics or any of the science subjects. So when you say qualification, what qualification can a teacher have that qualifies that person as a teacher and that is suitable to fit into the education for all thing? How can one fit in? What qualification can one possess that will make the person suitable to teach?
Yes. Just like you rightly said, because of the low number of qualified teachers, private school now employ, as long as you're a graduate, you are being employed. So for the teachers themselves, not minding that you study any other course, there's an avenue for you to go for your PGD programs, that's postgraduate diploma in education, both in full-time or in part-time. Some of the conventional universities run those programs, and some other Nigeria institutions run same program. So for a teacher to be qualified, the teacher needs to go for those trainings. So before you are called a qualified teacher, you must have a certificate in education, be it an NCE, be it education, bachelor degree in education, or a PGD certificate. So for a teacher to be qualified, he or she is expected to have gone for that. Also, there should be in training. the teachers should learn to train themselves.
Okay. How can a teacher train him or herself? This is a new angle now. You said teachers can train themselves. How?
Yes. For you to be a professional, for you to be a pro in anything, you need to read a lot of books. Attend seminars, workshops. Go online, read books pertaining to that your field in education. So for you to be a qualified teacher, apart from teaching yourself, learning online and training yourself, maybe in retraining programs, maybe in workshop seminars, conferences, you can also be a master of your content. The content you are teaching, you should be a master of that content. That also will make you to be a qualified teacher.
What does it mean to be a master of your content? Sorry, I'm asking you so many questions because you are the educationist.
Yes. Now, for the education, for every level, we have what we call the curriculum. And for the curriculum, you have the content. For someone in primary school and for someone in secondary school, you find out that what is being taught are different. So the teacher at the primary school level should be able to understand the content he or she is going to teach. Likewise, the teacher in the secondary school level. So you should read ahead, study.
Which means
ahead.
you should know it. You should know what you want to teach. All right, Tom Mary is here. He is chairman, Rivers Indigenous NGOs, and Civil Society Network. As a civil society person, what have you done so far to ensure quality education is affordable and it reaches everybody, both rich and poor?
Thank you very much, Rachel. We in the civil society community, it has always been our duty to put things right by calling on respective government agencies and ministries to sit up and ensure that educational quality in the country and in the states is
what do you do to hold governments accountable? You know, because part of your duties is to hold government and the stakeholders accountable for what they claim they are doing. So what do you do to hold government accountable to ensure quality education for all in Nigeria?
Yes, part of what we are doing is like recently when the federal government first proposed the resumption of schools.
I was coming to that. That's another part of this.
We have visited some of the primary and secondary schools in the states to look at the level of facilities on ground in preparing them for this resumption. And we're already engaging the relevant agencies and ministries in respect to the facilities on ground and how resumption of schools amid the COVID-19 pandemic could be possible. Aside that, we are also looking at oftentimes government have given out some funds for the renovation of some of these schools and also for the budget provisions to looking at teaching and teachers and their training and retraining. One thing we have also done is to follow up on these budget provisions to see whether these budgets are actually implemented or they are just mentioned on papers and thrown away. You will agree with me that Nigeria is one country that is badly affected by the number of out-of-school children. And as such, what we can do to sustain the educational quality and increase the literacy level is ensuring that the little funds that have been budgeted, even if it's far below the prescribed UN standard, should be utilized properly, and that way we can make a headway from where we are.
All right, the program is still Women Voices for Peace, reaching you on Treasure FM 98.5. Today we're looking at quality education for all in Nigeria, challenges and prospects, and we have two guests in the studio. Tombari Donka Kote. He is chairman, Rivers Indigenous NGOs and Civil Society Network. We also have an educationist in the house, Dr. Mrs. Foloke Eze. She is an educationist and she has developed some software. I'm coming to that. She has actually developed a Scrabble software game Okay, which will enable children to learn how to play game. We'll come to that. Now, Tombari, you mentioned about resumption of schools, how that you went to inspect what is on ground to see if schools should resume or not. Yeah, that brings me to my next question. Sometime last week, Minister of Education Adamu came up to say that school resumption should be on hold for now because he doesn't feel safe about because of the COVID-19 thing, that school resumption should be on hold. Now, you said you've gone around the schools, but I want to ask Mrs. Eze, as an educationist, what do you think? Because there are a lot of mixed feelings. Some said, "Oh, we want to go back to school." Some, in fact, the majority are saying that regarding the COVID-19 is not safe for schools to resume. As an educationist, what do you think in all this scenario playing out? And the latest I heard is rumors that it could be September, that WAEC has been shifted to the September, which I'm not very sure of. It's all rumors. So what do you think about the stay at home? Children staying at home, they've stayed now for 4 months. And likely they will stay for another 1 month plus. I mean, what does this portend for our educational system?
Thank you, Rachel. For the stay at home, because of the COVID-19, we're going to find out that there will be regression in their learning ability for those who are not very bright in class. For those who are just below the average, this 4 months stay at home has affected them because they no longer have that interest to study. Now, let's know that also the learning span of our younger children is very, very short. So staying at home is affecting them seriously. So on the other side, to me, I'd have advised the school should resume if all the guidelines being stipulated by the federal government is adhered to.
And do you see the guidelines being adhered to? We're talking about washing of hands. We're talking about face mask. We're talking about 2 meter spacing and all that. But if you go to our rural areas, let's not judge by what we see in town. If you go to some rural areas, the schools, they sit on the floor, no chairs to sit. They don't even have potable drinking water. The water they drink is terrible. So in the face of all that, do you see this coming to reality?
Thank you, Rachel. Well, looking at those people who are underdeveloped, those in the rural area, it may not be easy for the school to resume. It may not be easy for us to curtail the COVID-19 when the school finally resume. But looking at the other problems that we are having with our kids staying at home. Now, most parents are out of job. Some, their finances is doing them. And certainly, there will be child labor. When you can't survive, you can't just watch your child die off. So these children will be pushed to the road to hawk or be moved to some other homes where they feel that they can take care of them, and that will lead to child labor. It will also lead to mental issues.
On the side of the parents?
But on the side of the children too. They will try their hands on so many things.
All right, we'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Now pause. All right, sorry for that break. We needed it to put some things in order. Now, somebody, what is the implication of children staying at home for too long? They've started for 4 months now. The longest holiday I've ever seen. What's the implication?
Yes, there is certainly some grievous implication on the part of the society, on the part of the parents, and even also on the part of the children. For instance, a recent report by UNICEF, which was released in 2018, pegged the out-of-school children in Nigeria from the usual 10.5 million it used to be to about 13.2 million out-of-school children in the country. Now, this was when things were normal. And we're now talking about this period of the COVID-19 crisis and children continuing to stay at home with the resultant loss of job on the part of parents and caregivers. Definitely that means that more children are going to be dropping out of school. and it won't mean well for the society. Like Dr. Izzy has said, that the children will be trying their hands on other things. The parents will also have some concerns, and like we are already witnessing, you see that there are rising cases of domestic violence and child abuse in the society. These are some of the implications of their continuous stay at home. But on the reverse, what rather as civil society actors, what we will advise the government to do, like we have already started visiting some of these schools, it is really pathetic. Like for instance, at community secondary school Tenama in Kana local government area, where we saw a nearly deroof building, and we saw no seats in the classroom, and students are expected to resume to probably write WAEC in that school. It is really pathetic. The government need to move in to ensure that the needed, the required infrastructures are put in place, and where they are, possibly improve on them to ensure that while the students are coming back amid the crisis, the health crisis we currently have, the rules and the expected health regulations, health rules are observed, the COVID-19 protocols are properly observed. That way, if the government put these things in place, I think our children will be safe to resume schools, and then also protected from contacting the virus.
All right, Dr. Mrs. Eze. Now, two things are before us: the COVID-19 thing, and some people say it's safer to be alive than allow these children go to school, pick up sicknesses, and come back to give the elderly ones, because they said the elderly ones are more vulnerable. Now, if you allow the children to go to school, they pick up COVID-19, come back home, give it to their parents, and this will lead to multiple deaths. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, our educational system is suffering. So what do you think can be done in this circumstance, considering these two things?
Thank you, Rachel. As you're saying, as you said, the children bringing back the disease to the parents at home. Now, most of the lockdown has been eased, like interstate travels, and certainly some of those parents do travel. The markets are open, some of the markets are open, and these parents go out. The airports are open, parents go out. Very soon, some states will be having their elections. They are still the parents. So it's likely that the parents will also go out and bring the sickness back home, either to the elderly and to the children also. So since all these places are open, I will also advise that the school be open, but then the federal government should insist that all the measures set aside in the guidelines for reopening of schools be met. Now, not only looking at the government, we can also plead to the old girls, old boys association of various schools. Like we all went through primary schools, we went through secondary schools. The old girls can come together and maybe provide soap and water to their schools. It will go a long way. By asking the students to stay back at home just because of the COVID, for them not to bring it back to the parents, the roads are open. People go to the markets, they go to banks, they travel by air, by road. Is it not possible for these parents to contact this same disease? The disease is not really meant for the classrooms. So to my own opinion, since all these places are open, let the federal government, let the old girls, old boys association of various schools, both at the primary, secondary, let us give back to the society. For instance, you go back to where you did your primary school, go back to where you had your secondary school, and provide, even if it's a roll of soap for the school, for the students there. So asking these children to stay back at home will tell more. The regression, the health issues, child labor, family violence, and so many things will keep increasing. So to my own opinion, I feel schools should resume. And then maybe we can have, instead of having all the days, just like it's in the guideline, that alternating days, maybe 3 days for the primary schools, and then 2 days. In case, like where I stay, there are government secondary school there. You have maybe about 150 students in a class. And this class is meant to contain just 30 students, and you're having a number of 150. So in such a class, they can be divided. Not all the students coming together at once. So they can just be 2 days on and maybe 3 days off. Let me use that word, on and off. So students can attend classes for 2 days, and then the others set to attend the remaining 2 days. I think it's something the school management can work out with the teachers. But if the schools don't resume, our students, our children are suffering. The parents also are suffering. So I think schools should resume, from my own